Hello, my Juicy co-creators. Lilou here on the Juicy Living Tour in California, beautiful Santa Cruz, on about an hour, I guess, an hour and a half from San Francisco. I'm excited to be meeting you, Kimberly.
Thank you, Lilou. I'm happy to meet you too.
So you're Foster Gamble's wife, and you're the producer, really, of the movie Thrive. And I'm thrilled to be speaking with you about this journey of yours. Your husband speaks so highly of you, and I can tell that you have this amazing relationship. There's a lot of co-creation there for sure. If you haven't seen the interview with Foster, I really encourage you to go and look at it. It's in actually two parts where we go in depth about the different kind of the reality check of what's going on in the world, but also the solutions. You co-wrote this movie, so you know all about it, and you're as informed as he is. We're not gonna repeat any of this information. You have, though, your point of view, and as a woman, you incarnate and bring something else into the picture, which I can relate. And you were, I'm interested to know where you're coming from, because you were born in this Hollywood movie family, and you saw what you saw there, and you became this journalist at Newsweek International. So you have seen those different areas. What was it like, and when did really the light bulb start being turned on and saying, I can't live this way anymore, my goodness?
Well, I think I was fortunate. I went to a great high school. It was actually one of the first free schools down in Los Angeles. And we had a chance to develop our own curriculum down there. There were a few kids in the class, and so I think I was especially fortunate that I love to learn, and that didn't get squelched. I think everybody's born curious, loving to learn. It's just that it gets beat out of us so quickly. So I think I was blessed to begin with an open and free opportunity as a kid to really follow my passion, and to also have a school where we focused a lot on critical thinking. It was during the Vietnam War. We studied the Vietnam War while it was happening, and we read I.F. Stone's Weekly and some really good radical publications. Actually, we would read things from opposing points of view, so that as a class we would then have a conversation to see what was our own opinion about it. And that's something that Foster and I have both really valued, is finding out, what do I think about this, actually, by listening to what other people have to say, and especially people who can disagree respectfully, which is, sometimes hard to find, but of great value when you can just hear what are the different opinions about this, and then what are the facts. So I think, as a journalist, I got into what are the facts. And I think with Thrive, a lot of it was we were so tired of debating facts that we felt like if we could get something where the information was just solidly out there, then we could go from there and say, so what's your speculation? If this is the information and we know this is happening, then what is it that you think is motivating it? And most of all, what can we do about it? And so I think I came at it from, of course, from a different perspective. And I was much more like from the movie making background of really wanting to take this vast amount of information and life experience and turn it into something that would be, palatable and engaging for all different kinds of people.
And get it out to as many people as possible, because you had this vision. You knew you can bring something of that magnitude into the world. You've seen it happening in Hollywood, huh?
Right. Yeah, I think that was true. I do think I had the other, blessing was that I had a chance to grow up watching dreams come true. I really saw that you can manifest your dreams if you have, for me, it's this combination of having a passionate intent combined with unconflicted behavior. If you really align your behavior with your intention, it can manifest. You never know how or when, but I do believe it can show up. And so for me, I knew that if we really had our intention clear, and which we did, and it was quite aligned, even though our perspectives were different, and we had plenty of disagreements along the way. But I think Foster talked to you even about the fact that we held our relationship primary, which was really an important part of it, so that we just stayed with the conversation to say, well, so how are we going to talk about this? And we made the decision to make a movie that really related to people as being intelligent, caring people. We included lots of different information. It's 2 hours long, and people were saying, oh, you can't do that. And it's like, actually, here it is. 1 million people a month are watching it in 24 different languages because it's satisfying something. And I think what it's satisfying is the need that people have now to figure out what's going on so that we can have solutions that are actually informed and meaningful, and not just kind of tweaking this, fundamentally flawed system, which isn't obviously going to cut it.
What really got you in all this information that you found out about through the research and putting the movie together? What was some of the big piece for you that you had to even heal within yourself to be able to expose it?
I think the hardest part for me was wrapping around how, well, I think a few things. One, that it had become like that you had to be courageous just to do critical thinking. Like I think about it because I'm really passionate about chemtrails, the geoengineering of our skies that's happening. And I think, you have absolute evidence. There are patents for what's called solar radiation management, that talk about putting heavy metals into the atmosphere, for example, combined with an increase in aluminum in the soils. You have Air Force whistleblowers saying, yes, we know that this is what's going on, increase in asthma, all this evidence. And yet to say, wow, I really question the legitimacy of that, the morality, the safety, the legality, any of that. You become like this controversial conspiracy theorist to even, question things that have to do with our fundamental well-being or the impact on the health of our children and grandchildren and planet. So to me, part of it was realizing that something that I kind of took for granted, which was being a critical thinker, actually put me in this category of having to become sort of a courageous spokesperson for something. And so that was a bit of a personal transformation. I hadn't really thought of myself in that way before, but it was just like, well, I'm going to speak up and I am questioning these things. So I think that was one. And I think another thing for me was just realizing that it's such a hard leap to go from who most people are to this, pretty sinister little group that's at the very top that's determining so much of how things are really going. And so it took me a long time. I kept thinking, like, I said this in the movie, maybe they're taking advantage of the situation, but not actually causing it. That was just so hard for me to initially grapple with. But once I did, I actually felt liberated because I got it. It's like, okay, my experience with human beings is that they're actually wonderful, resilient, caring people. I've been in lots of situations where, people just come through and figure out how to solve problems. So when I looked around at the state of the world, that was actually one of the clues for me was, how come every system is in decline? Like, no matter what you look into, it's a mess. Like, I don't think people are really that bad. But if you put them in this environment where you're, making them unhealthy and dumbing them down and, making it courageous, where you have to be courageous just to think critically, then, this is the kind of thing that can result. So anyway, so I'd say those were some of the things that went on for me. And then in the course of the process, we just kind of kept peeling back one layer after another.
I know as women we are sensitive, and that's something that is so beautiful about that feminine side within us. Looking at all this information, it's an easy place to be, or we have a tendency to be empathic and just really feeling it and taking it even to the cellular level. how are you able to digest such a thing and to be with that and not yourself be in the suffering so that you're kind of frozen and not even able to move? How can you transmute that?
I think that's really the challenge. You know, a lot in the education, I was exposed to a lot of the videos that which I wanted for the information, but the tone was really hard. And there were a few where I could not get my women friends to watch the videos that were informing me because they just were alienated by the tone. And part of what I felt was, and also the other thing was, some said, I don't want to think about that stuff because I know our thoughts manifest, and I don't want to put my attention onto this negative stuff. And for me, I realized that, you know, if there's a fire coming up the road, you don't say, oh, that I don't want to think about that. Or if there's a rapist in the neighborhood, it's not a good idea to say, I don't want to think about that. You get informed, you figure out, so who is he and what's the pattern of how he's operating, and how can I then avoid coming into contact with him, and better yet, stop him. Right? You have to put your attention a little bit on a negative thing, which is that there's somebody causing harm whose intent is to do harm in my neighborhood. That's certainly the case here, now rampantly around the world in everybody's neighborhood. And so if I allow myself to go to that, I can actually go through it and come out the other side to where the solutions that I'm able to suggest are actually empowered and informed and meaningful. And they don't have, you know, when you run from something, you have to run forever. And it lives like right there on the side, like, ugh, I don't want to look at that, whether it's something in ourselves or something that's going on in the world. You know, denying isn't really a solution. It's a temporary avoidance strategy, but it doesn't get us to where we need to go. And I think for me, you know, I sort of I saw the state of the world. It kind of looked like Katrina, you know, to me. After a while, I just sort of looked at right after the disaster. I thought, like, where do you begin? It's such a mess, you know, and I could really see why some people just thought, I don't even want to go down that hole because it's going to be so depressing. And I thought, you know, if I can do this aligned, like, you know, living a purposeful life is a very satisfying thing to do. And so to say, you know, I'm going to begin with what's my part. And I think that was one of the things that Thrive offers that's of a special value in my mind, is to say, you don't have to do it all. You get to do the part that's right for you. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing the part that's right for me. You know, I happen to be a critical thinker and kind of a strategist, and the producer's the one who, you know, goes, all right, if we want this movie to come out, what are all the things that have to happen between here and there? And if we want to stop chemtrails, what are all the things we're going to have to do between here and there? So that's the piece that I bring, is some real strategic thinking and organizing, because that happens to be my orientation. And with the, you know, feminine bent, which is I really understand the inclination to want to just stay nurturing that which is life and that which is beautiful. And ultimately, this is my contribution to that.
I can totally see how we can find our power when we're informed, you know, and within that information, then as you said, you know, then we can be helpful. Once we're informed, then we can really be helpful. I love the analogy of what you said about, you know, Foster's hair, but, you know, it's not just telling him that he has fire in his hair, but maybe first tell him the bowl of water is there and then fire in your hair.
Right, yeah. I think it's critical. People need to know the point of this isn't to wallow around in what's wrong on the planet. You know, that doesn't inspire anybody. The whole purpose of unpacking what's wrong is so that we can create what's right in a meaningful way that actually hits the target that we're after, you know, which is we've got an economic war going on. So, you know, that was the other part, is to be a woman who understands the economics, you know, because it sounds so complicated. That you're left to think, well, I can't really get that. It's like, you know, you can get it. It's really basic. If it's a rigged system, you can know that it's not fair. And the things which are true are simple enough to understand. So I wanted to empower also other women to know that, you know, something like where you keep your money really matters, because banks can use, they can multiply the money that they keep in the bank. They use their deposits to fund the corporations who are building the nuclear power plants and the weapons industry. All of that's funded by these big banks. So if you, in your innocence, put your money into Bank of America and Wells Fargo and the rest, you're funding the problems that you're otherwise wanting to stop. And I think that recognizing that what might seem like a little move of taking responsibility about where you keep and spend your money, it's actually not. It's a very empowering thing to do. And I think it's one of the things that, the powers that be have sort of assumed wouldn't happen. If they could make a convenient enough ATM program, we would, not notice what they were doing with the money. And I think that's changing.
In France, it's harder and harder to get some cash, big amounts of cash from those ATMs, huh?
Yeah, well, I think it's going pretty cashless. I know now here down in our town, it's cashless for the parking meters and, on the airplanes. And so, yeah.
So you recommend local banks? Huh?
Yeah, I do. I think local banks and credit unions can actually, it's still part of the Federal Reserve system, and they still use fractional reserve, but what happens is they lend the money out locally into your own community. So you're at least keeping your money in your own community to empower the businesses and the people there. And that can make a big difference, because your local bank is not funding, Halliburton or GE or some of those other corporations.
Women have a big purchasing power. Huh? We make big decisions in the house. What are some of those decisions that a woman within the household can make, consciously, that could be pretty powerful and can turn things around? Because some women won't dare to speak to their husband, but maybe there is some other day-to-day action that you would like to recommend.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the food and the food additives, and recognizing, human fertility is down 50% around the world. That is not a healthy thing for a species that's looking to survive. And, I know for me, I'm 61, and when I had kids, it wasn't getting pregnant, it wasn't like nobody could get pregnant in those days. These days, I know so many young people dealing with fertility issues. And I believe that, I know for a fact here, when we were dealing with the moth spray in the area, which we talked about in the movie and Foster's talked about, and we stopped it, it was an aerial spray. We proved during that there were endocrine disruptors in that toxic aerosol spray. And it's true that in the GMO foods and in the chemtrails, which are global, and in so many of the food additives, the chances are that we are undermining our children's ability to have children and live healthy lives. So I believe that as mothers, it's our responsibility to check into this, and the fact that, or even with the electromagnetic radiation from cell phones. You see babies playing with cell phones, and if you look at it, even the warnings on the labels say keep it an inch from your body. They do the testing for cell phones on 6'2" men weighing 220 pounds or something with a baby, or a pregnant woman, or younger people. Those things are dangerous. So I think that women need to take responsibility to be informed. I really think that being a responsible citizen and being a mother these days requires that we go out of our way a little bit and don't just take what's given to us, because I think it's demonstrated that what's given to us is not in our own best interests, and certainly not in the best interests of our future generations.
I'm really grateful to be sitting here in your living room, and I can see a lot of art objects that are very much spiritual, that have a lot of beautiful love and light emanating from them. How do you, what is your sense of your spirituality? How do you see spirituality, and what's its place within this type of movements?
Well, for me, I see consciousness as primary, that fundamentally we are spiritual beings. And my own sense of it is that we have a chance to come be people for a while on the planet and then continue our evolution on a soul's journey that takes us into other realms, perhaps back again. But for me, I think what it informs most of all is that connection with all other life, and also a sense of, I think, less fear on the level of like, oh, we did this really bold thing. It's like I want to be fully alive while I'm here in this soul's journey of mine. I want to experience being the best I can be at any given time, and certainly not to land on my deathbed wondering whether or not I had fully lived. And so for me, that fundamental core spiritual orientation in life, I think, frees me to be probably more courageous and outspoken and fully alive in my earthly experience, because I know that I do it with great support from, I believe, beings on all levels. I feel like Thrive has been facilitated multidimensionally from the start. I spend every day, the first thing I do is meditate and look to find getting my own center aligned with what I hope and feel is the bigger picture of what's really going on, and then just do my part to act in alignment with that and be as forgiving of myself as I want to be toward others.
The forgiveness is a big piece, huh?
Yeah, it is. I think that that's a whole part of it. Some people were like, oh, if we name the people who are, really at the helm of causing so much of this destruction, that it was like, oh, that's really an us versus them kind of thing. It's like, it's not us versus them. I recognize that we're all one, and that, and there are people, they need to be obsoleted from power. That's all. It's like, I have a lot of thoughts that I don't manifest, right? You want to act from your highest self. That doesn't mean there's only your highest self in there at all times. And so I think it's, what do you want to give power to? And I think it's time for us to take responsibility to empower that which is the wiser part of humanity. But it doesn't mean that I can't imagine how it got to be this way. I understand, our shadows and all the rest. I just believe that, I believe that we are capable of so much more. And I believe that begins by just kind of having a gentle understanding of how we each got to be where we are. And I think that starts with ourselves, and that's one of the things I happen to like about aging, is that you just get used to it, going, oops, I didn't understand that at that time, and now I understand it, and so I'll do better.
But you look gorgeous, 61. I hope I will look as gorgeous. Oh my goodness. And your garden is beautiful, and flowers is important in your life.
Yeah, flowers, and so are bees. I actually work with, because with the bee colony collapse around the world, one of the things I work to do here is to cultivate native bees. So I've been working with UC Berkeley to plant plants which attract native bees, and we have 78 species of native bees in the garden here. So yeah, I'm a gardener, and of course I learned so much about life from gardening.
Beautiful. I so enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, and thank you for putting such a movie as Thrive out. And if you haven't seen it, please see it. And if you want more information and the facts, we went through a lot of them with Foster in the other interview in 2 parts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lilou. Appreciate it.
Last little message. I feel there's a last little message coming from you that needs to come out. Is there a last little message of action, of inspiration that you would like to share? Because I know a lot of things are happening on the site and everywhere with so many projects that you have. But if there's something.
Sure, I'll say one thing. I feel like from the experience of putting Thrive out, one of the things that I've been able to see is we've heard from thousands and thousands of people from around the world. And I'm so inspired with so many people waking up all over this planet. And that, really our mainstream media is like a distorted mirror that is so easy to leave you feeling like either you're the only sane person on the planet, or that there's no hope because it's such a mess. And in fact, there are resilient, capable, awake people all over the world. And trust yourself. That's the message I would say, is trust yourself and dig deeper inside and out and find out what's going on, and then figure out what's your part to do, and do that, because we need everybody.
Thank you. Big, big kisses, my Juicy Co-creators. Much, much love wherever you are. Take action. Go, 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 go. Big kisses. Bye.